Kia ora. Nau mai hara mai kia tau mai ki tēnei pāhotanga ko Auaha Live. Ngā mihi mahana kia koutou katoa I tēnei rā. Ko Sandra Julian ahau, ko Ngāti Mutunga, Ngāti Tama, Pautama, me tia wā oku iwi. Kia ora and welcome along to Auaha Live. This is where I interview the many talented people that dedicate themselves to the business events industry here in Aotearoa. I'm your host, Sandra Julian. I'm the founder of Auaha, a business events agency and approved professional conference organizer. If you are joining me here to live, and I can see that we do have some people online, please drop a comment below, say hi, let us know you're here. If you've got any questions at all throughout our conversation today, please just drop them in the comments. Love to bring you into the conversation and answer any questions that you've got. My guest today she's had some amazing experience in the events industry and worked on some big and fabulous events. And so she is no stranger to the events world, very similar to the many other guests that we've had on the show. Again, once you get dragged into the events industry, it's got some kind of magic pull on you that once you're hooked and you're here to stay. But my guest today has got a slightly different background in that she has spent most of her career in the events industry, not necessarily the business events industry. But I really did want to have a conversation with Donna today because she has started the Women in Events in New Zealand network, which has really got some traction and is really bringing us together to have conversations outside of work conversations and doing business as one another. So before I keep rabbiting on, let me introduce you to Donna Buchanan. Donna,
Hello.
Welcome to Auaha Live.
Yes, thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah, no, nice to have you. Let's start by, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do to our audience?
My name is Donna Buchanan. I'm the Managing Director of Women in Events New Zealand. Now, Women in Events has been running for 5 years now. We just celebrated our 5th birthday at Eden Park last month. Absolutely fabulous celebration. Obviously a little bit touch and go this year, but we were able to celebrate those 5 years face to face.
Nice.
We run free networking events in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch as well. This year I reignited our mentor program and we have 13 pairings in Auckland with looking to branch into Wellington and Christchurch as well. The reps down there, so we've got Kat and Freya in Christchurch and Rebecca in Wellington. So that's kind of a little bit of us in a nutshell.
And is the Women Events in New Zealand, is that what you do full time or is that something you do on the side?
On the side. I am a stay-at-home mum and I freelance working on events as well. Obviously, again, touch and go this year, but that's all right. My background, I come from predominantly rock and roll. I started my very first event was Big Day Out here in Auckland, and I've worked on music, comedy, touched on a little bit of conferences, but mainly working on site staffing for major events here and overseas. And then before I had my little girl, who's nearly 3, for 8 years I was the AOT Square account manager for Auckland Life.
Nice. And so what part of those like big events, or what was your little niche or little specialty area as part of those bigger events?
I'm administration and accreditation and site and volunteers. Staff, I love working with people. I love putting the right person in the right role. It's something that I really enjoy, and I love just kind of bringing people together. So I would run teams of volunteers. I would for Big Day Out I had volunteers that would literally only work on events And as a volunteer, you're a worker, definitely. You should be treated exactly the same. And they would come once a year, big day out. And I had some of the same volunteers for 10 years that would just go and do it once a day. So that's my niche. I love putting people in the right spots, I suppose, as well as obviously, you know, walking into a huge paddock, creating a village, running the show, having the show, breaking it back down again, and leaving no trace, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, what pulled you in to the events industry in the beginning?
I come from a hospitality family. My father was a chef and my mother ran front of house. And I left high school and I did a photography certificate, which I absolutely love, but I came out of it realizing that it was a passion, not necessarily a job for me. And I went into hospitality. I followed my parents into hospo. I ended up managing bars, cafes, and then in that, obviously, there's a lot of events. I then travelled overseas. I was 22, 23, lived a year in Holland. Thought maybe that was kind of the point of I needed to get a grown-up job. Was that grown-up job striving to, you know, buy my own hospitality, like a bar or cafe. And then it was actually the year 99. And I thought, actually, why don't I go and retrain? And I looked at AUT, very first year, the event management diploma was being offered. So I came home. I actually applied while I was overseas. I came home. I got an interview. And there I am starting, I think, you know, late Jan, early Feb into this event management diploma where Jo Pilkington was actually the program leader at the time. Fabulous woman.
Nice. Nice. And then it just went from there.
It went from there. I went in knowing that I wanted to work in rock and roll. Music had always been a passion. And I came out knowing I wanted to work in rock and roll. There was amazing papers, but I found at the time, it's changed a lot now, but I found at the time it was very based around the corporate sector, which, you know, wonderful events can be held in there. But at the time, you know, this is 20 years ago. At the time, there weren't that many roles. And so they were snapped up pretty quickly. And so the sequel is the company that ran the big day out, and that was always my goal. I always had that as my goal. I wanted to work on big day out. Nice. I'd taken photos there, so I knew the publicist. And I went, obviously, that year, took more photos, dropped them off, and spoke to Nikki, who was the publicist at the time, and said, I want to work here. She was like, okay, you know, who didn't want to work on big day out? And so I finished my diploma. I walked into the office in, you know, December. Again, I want to work here. I want to work here. And they're like, sorry, we, you know, not now. We don't have any roles available. I said, look, I'll volunteer. And they said, okay, come see us in January. So I had an appointment. I think it was, so big day out was the third Friday in January. I, you know, walked in on the Monday, the week prior, had an appointment to meet a woman, and walked up to the front desk and said, hi, I'm Donna, and it was a volunteer position. Hi, you know, I've come to volunteer. And the wonderful John Leach, he said, oh, never heard of you, go sit down there. And so I did, and I sat and I waited, and the woman who I had an appointment with never showed. Turns out she was actually out at pretty much an all-day site meeting, but I waited for 3 hours.
Wow.
I was adamant. I was working on big day out.
Nice. Well, that's some determination for you.
And John Leach, I mean, he obviously walked past me a couple of times in those 3 hours. So it wasn't a huge office. Yeah. And he, you know, finally walked past me, you're still here. And I said, yes, I am. And he was like, come on then. Obviously, you're not going to give up. And I did. I stuffed envelopes. I, you know, packed the truck. I faxed things, you know, I'm talking 20 years ago. And I worked hard. I remember doing a 24-hour show day, and with 1 day break, you know, leading up. And it was the best. It was the best. Absolutely fantastic.
And when you were hooked?
Yeah, I was absolutely hooked. It was hard. It was grunt work. it was funny. It was, it was everything I'd kind of wished for, plus all the extra hard work on top. But it was fantastic. And I kind of just never looked back. And I ended up working for the sequel for 2 years. And perseverance. If I hadn't sat there for 3 hours and I'd walked away, I don't know where I'd be in events right now.
Yeah, interesting. Hey, it's because back then it was it was who you knew as to how you got into the industry, right? There weren't many jobs that were offered up that you could just go and apply for, like a normal job, if you like. It was more around who you knew and what networks that you could wiggle your way in. So good on you. 3 hours and we're
I did not. I remember thinking, what's going on? What is going on? I had an appointment, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, thinking, but I had an appointment, what's happening? And it just turned out, she was on site. And, that just hadn't been relayed back to the office. But I worked with, amazing team, John Leach, Etienne, Bridget Darby, Summer Wharekawa. Like, it's just honestly, and those people, still friends to this day. And
nice.
You become a family. And that's what I love about events. It is an extended family. And that's why I started Women in Events New Zealand.
Nice. So what has been your favourite big event to work on?
Oh, Big Day Out, hands down. I worked on it many years. I worked on some international, Tea in the Park, Glastonbury. Fantastic. But I suppose if you're looking at key moments that will kind of always shine through, Big Day Out, I can't tell you what year. Some of them do blend in a little bit, but Fat Freddy's Drop were playing. And as I would be in the office pretty much, all week, all day, I didn't really escape that often because I had team managers running the volunteers, just basically put it in their hands on show day. But I remember I really wanted to go catch a bit of Fat Freddy's. And so, and it was out on the outer fields of Mount Smart Stadium. And my boss actually was like, come here. And I followed her side of stage and she was like, sit down, take 10 minutes, please, just take 10 minutes. And 10 minutes turned into 20, half an hour. And I just sat there and I remember watching Fat Freddy's and I was just like, ooh, it was just beautiful. And I looked out over the crowd and was like, this is why we do events. This is magic.
Yeah. Over this time, have you moved around doing different roles behind the scenes of events? Like, have you done like team and then backstage and then artist management, or have you really, how have you moved in behind the scenes?
Not much. I found my niche. I found what I enjoy. Administration. I love just kind of bringing everyone's creativity, because as event managers, we are creative. And so, bringing that creativity, processing so it turns into, support documents, the event how-to. And I've been very lucky that I've been taught by people who have such great skill in that area. John Leach, I still freelance with him to this day. His event how-do document books are just surpassed by none. And I've definitely replicated it on many events that I have then gone to work on.
Nice.
My niche is administration, accreditation, and volunteers and on-site staff. I had opportunities to move into artist management, and I kind of looked at it and I looked from the outside, and I would obviously work closely with the team. I put volunteers into roles there. So if anything, maybe I might move in there, or pyrotechnics. Nothing beats a fantastic pyro display.
Blow shit up, really.
Pretty much. Yep.
Nice. I mean, I find that super fascinating because, the reason that I got into events is that it's varied and I get to do a little bit of everything, and I don't have to just be stuck doing like the finances or stuck doing the people piece or stuck doing the creative. I get to dabble in a bit of everything, which keeps my attention. So I find it really fascinating that like you've found your little your little slice of events, and that's the piece that just keeps you coming back and back and back.
Definitely. At Auckland Live, I walked into a role that didn't actually exist. The square was coming into 2010, was just coming out of its refit, October 2010, and they didn't have account manager for the role. Right. The wonderful Glenn Crichton at Auckland Live was doing the role and his normal account management role, which was a huge role in itself. He predominantly looks after all the big promoters at Auckland Live. And so, yeah, I was actually doing a 3-month maternity cover at Auckland Council, working with the permitting team. And Georgina Gilmore said, hey, do you know there's this role going? And I was like, oh, I had heard about it, but I'd already lined up my summer festivals. Again, big day out, Pacifica, little, other bits and pieces here and there. And she said, I think you should go for it. And so I did, took 3 interviews, and I got the job. Nice. And that actually taught me a lot of new aspects. And since it was a new role, it was definitely work in progress. Because how it works there at Auckland Live, and it still does. So you've got the account manager, event coordinator, and then the event coordinator is actually that key component that feeds all the information that the client has given the account manager, and then everything is passed to the event coordinator, and they work very closely with the client and all the different departments to actually deliver an event. Where as the account manager for Auckland Live, some events would be worked in that scenario, but other events I would actually, I became the event coordinator for Aotea Square, as well as some events. Initially, I would be on the ground running them as well with the client. So that actually taught me so much more. And the great thing about that, I felt just not only an account manager, but an event manager as well, running the show on the paddock, being out there, troubleshooting. I love to think on my feet. I know this is going to sound a little bit strange, but I like to be put into high pressure situations, because that's where I think you can just basically find out a little bit more about yourself, how you can make this work, how you can roll with the punches. Sometimes when it's just a little bit too easy and it's a bit cut and paste, that's great, but I don't feel you're learning.
Yeah, there's nothing like being in that moment when you have to go, what, that. It's like you got to think quickly through all the scenarios and through all the situations and everything that you're finishing and make a decision. And then if that's not the right decision, you can make another one, and you make it within moments, and then you keep moving forward. So yeah, that's definitely part of the draw card of events too, I think, as we live off this adrenaline of decision making in order to do the best and give the best experience. So I know I don't find that super. I agree with you that thinking on your feet and being on the event can be one of the most fun parts of the job. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and especially at Auckland Live, Aotea Square is the civic square, and we're, Auckland Live, council-controlled organisation, and there were so many stakeholders when it came to Aotea Square, and again, it was about building those relationships externally with stakeholders, internally with our team, realising that every team was important. Every person that worked on the event was important. No one was better than anyone else. We were all integral to that cog, which is delivering an event.
Yeah. And that's the way good events come off, is when you all realise that you are all integral to one another. Yeah.
And everyone's got their way of communicating, as an event manager, I may not communicate the same as someone in production, or potentially, the way I may just go, great, email. Oh, they're going to get that. That's fine. We're actually, no, they're sitting behind a lighting rig or, literally rigging lights. or putting up sound, you know, putting up production PA. No, I need to go and see them and go have a chat.
Yeah. Sometimes they whip out their phone and go, "Oh, let me check my emails."
No, because they're, you know, they're doing the hard graft. They're getting that show up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'd like to talk about Women in Events New Zealand, and what was the spark that made you go, "Oh, let me do this"?
So I was at Eventing the Future 6 years ago. That was 6 years ago, maybe. Sorry, we just turned 5. So sorry, no, 5 years ago. And that was in August, I think, off the top of my head. And
Yeah,
I
you
looked
should
around the room. Yeah, I looked around the room and I was like, wow, this feels like, and there's 300 odd delegates. I was like, this feels like it's 80% women here.
Yes.
Why are we not coming together as a support group? Because that's what I feel like. Network with your peers, have, you know, support within the industry. Because I saw a lot, you know, women in business, women in finance, women in tech. Why didn't we have a woman in events here in New Zealand? And so I thought about it and I thought about it. And the idea kind of cropped up a couple of years prior, and I thought about it. I was like, oh, no, I'm too busy. And more so just like, you know, why don't I, you know, get to get, like, you know, put something together, just a gathering, like, you know, once or twice a year. And then I actually had pre-FOMO. I thought, if someone else does this before me, I'm going to be gutted. And I was like, I know I'm busy, but I'm going to make this happen. So come October, I sent an invite to all my colleagues, everyone, clients that I'd worked with, stakeholders, any woman in the industry that I knew. And it's not about being an event manager, an account manager, a CEO. It's all people that identify as a woman within the event industry.
Nice.
And so I sent that first invite out. We were on the terrace of ATS Centre at the Box Cafe. My wonderful manager supplying a couple of gorgeous antipasto platters, and 25 women turned up. And I was like, wow, this has got a little bit of merit. And because one of the things is, you know, I do these annual events in ATS Square. And at the end, oh, we should catch up for that, you know, let's have a drink, you know, and then the event would roll around again. And I was like, oh, we didn't actually get together. Great to see you again, though. And, you know, those people I'd been working with turned up. And they're like, hey, yay, look at us meeting outside an event. And the thing about the Women in Events NZ free networking events, it's about leaving your titles at the door. There's no name badges, mainly because I haven't found a sustainable option, and that's another passion of mine. It's about leaving titles at the door. It's about either coming along, having a chat, you know, having a decompression about your day, your week, your month. If you want to come and work the room for 2 hours, you're more than welcome. One of my favourite things I do see is when business cards are swapped in an open way, not just, here's my card, I'll give you a call. It's like, oh, you know, they've had the chat, and then there's like, oh, okay, let's catch up outside of this, or job opportunities. Absolutely fantastic. I just love it. And then, each month we move to a different venue. And the venues host us. They look after, obviously, the space, the catering. Sometimes there's a drink on arrival. It's always a free bar at the Women at Events, the networking events, because I feel there's already, that's not what we're about. And there's already a lot of events where there's full catering and full hospo. We're actually just about catching up with your peers.
Right. Nice. And so how long were you established in Auckland before you then spread your wings to other locations across the country?
3.5 years off the top of my head. The Wonderful Meetings magazine did a piece on myself and Women Events New Zealand, and Rebecca Travers in Wellington read it, reached out to me and said, hey, I would love to do this down here. And I'd always wanted to expand, but you know, it's like how I was, you know, I think I was still I think I was still at Auckland Live, or maybe I was pregnant at the time. You know, I felt like I had a lot on my plate, and I just didn't have that extra to make those contacts down in Wellington. And you know, I had a chat to Rebecca. Now she's a volunteer, and so all reps throughout New Zealand are volunteers. And we did the first couple together. I must say, I flew down for the first one, flew down for the second one, but she was more than capable after, even on the first one. And she's been running that for, I think we're coming up to 2 years. A little bit of a pause, obviously, with COVID and everything that's happened, but we'll be up and running again next year.
Nice.
In Wellington.
And so Women in Events New Zealand is a volunteer organisation. What's your business model behind it?
To keep the networking events free, I want a space where women in our industry can come together and not feel they have to belong to a membership, pay a ticket to come and network or decompress. I am looking at ticketed events. This was going to be our year, but obviously that's being put on pause at the moment. I'm looking at a chat series for 2021, intimate chat series. So yeah, I just wanted to give back to our community. I do get people asking me, "What, you don't earn money from this? Why do you do it?" And it's like, why not? Why? I mean, obviously, you know, money pays the bills and it makes the world go round. But sometimes some things are more important than earning a buck. And this is it for my community. You know, obviously, when I do the ticketed events, I'd like to not be in the red for every single one, but let's just see how it goes.
Yeah, nice. And what's your bigger vision, bigger goal for where Women in Events New Zealand might be in, say, 3 or 5 years' time?
World domination, pretty much. Yeah, obviously, when Christchurch, Kat and Freya down there doing a wonderful job. Reigniting the events next year as well, the free networking events. I would like to grow, obviously. The chat series would be fantastic. We have because we had to cancel half of our free networking events here in Auckland, and I got a little bit restless and I wanted something to do, so I restarted our mentor program. As I mentioned, we've got 13 pairings there. I already have people putting up their hands to the mentor or be mentored for 2021. So I'd like to grow that. More free networking events. Events happen throughout New Zealand. It's not just Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch. I would love to expand into other cities, other centres. So I suppose just watch this space.
Yeah. Well, if anyone is watching and anyone is keen to start a Women in Events network in their region of Aotearoa, then reach out to Donna and connect yourself and you will be up and running in no time.
Definitely.
But Donna, let's chat more about your mentor program. How long has that been running and what does that involve?
So 2017, 2018, I put together a couple of pairs, and that worked. One didn't work so well, one worked really well, but again, just kind of life got in the way, got busy, and was unable to just carry it on. COVID hit. I got a little bit restless. I wanted something else to do. I am a stay-at-home mum to a toddler, so I am quite busy, but I still wanted to be able to give something to our community. And so I just basically put the call out and said, hey, this is what I'd like to do. Put the program back together. Is anyone interested? And I actually was amazingly flooded with people that were in the same vein. And I know Rebecca in Wellington as well would like to start the program down there, but I know again she's a full-time mum, full-time job of rep. Like she is just, she is superwoman when it comes to what she's doing. So at some point, hopefully in Wellington and potentially Christchurch as well. And they runs for 6 months, meet once a month. But I do know a lot of the team have actually been meeting, fortnightly, even sometimes a little bit more often. And that's us. And I've started my phone calls for the wrap for the end of the year, and the feedback has been wonderful. It
Yeah,
is, and it's not about being a student within events. One of our mentees, she's actually has an established event company, but she just felt a little bit stuck, I suppose. Maybe, hopefully, it's not the wrong word, but she just kind of, she just wanted that advice about how to break into certain areas within the event corporate sector.
right.
And so I paired her with the wonderful Stephanie at Spark Arena, and that has just worked really well.
Nice, nice. So do you have just as many people volunteering to be mentors as you do requests for mentees?
Unfortunately not. I couldn't place everyone. I couldn't place one person this year. I myself didn't put my hand up to be a mentor just in case one of the pairings didn't work, which did happen. And so I've taken on the wonderful Rose, and we have been, chatting for the past month or so. And then we will I'll take that, relationship a little bit extra into 21, just to catch up a few for her. So no, hopefully next year we will, but we'll just have to see how it goes. But I would love if you'd like to be mentored by a woman in our industry. If you'd like to become a mentor, please reach out.
Nice. Yeah, I've done 4 years as a mentor. So SINS, which is the association.
The program is so good.
Yeah. So they started their mentor program, I want to say about 5 years ago. I did the very first one as a mentor, and then I didn't do the second round, and then I did rounds 3 and 4. So I've had 4 mentees in total and missed 1 year. So they must have been going 5 years, and it didn't happen this year, COVID. But that program, I thoroughly enjoyed being the mentor, and just having the opportunity to chat through, and everyone was different, and every mentee that I had, they were focused on something different, but it was just an opportunity to guide them in the right direction, be the sounding board for them, be that neutral voice, be that confident, that could help just move their careers forward a little bit further. So I really enjoyed it, and taught me lots about myself as a mentor. And when they'd ask questions, I'd have to reflect on where I'd come from, or experiences that I had, that how I could relate, or just to enable me to prompt the right questions to get them to do the self-reflection as well. So being a mentor is, I think it's just as valuable, because it really does make you dive into yourself a bit deeper and do some reflections, and being able to help someone else. So
definitely,
I highly recommend, if anyone is available to do, it's about an hour a month. If it's meeting once a month, put your hand up and go volunteer to be a mentor. It is such a rewarding experience.
And I find, as well as event managers, we can become quite siloed.
Yes.
If we're doing annual events, obviously as an event manager, you're always potentially looking for new clients, growing your teams, but sometimes you can become quite siloed. So if that 1 hour once a month, you're talking to totally someone outside that you wouldn't even sometimes come across within your, within your industry, unless it's at one of our free networking events, it sometimes gives you a different perspective.
Yeah, most certainly. Yeah. One of the mentees I had was worked in a venue, which was completely, I suppose, new for me, because I'd only relationships that I had with venues was as the user of the venue. So I was completely oblivious to all of the internal dynamics and hierarchy that plays into job roles. So the ability to be the sounding board for someone trying to navigate their career in a venue was fascinating.
Yeah. And especially if it's a huge organization, there's a lot to navigate.
Yeah. So that was fascinating and stretched me into how I responded to her and her challenges. Yeah, but I mean, it was great, and she made progress towards the goals that she wanted to achieve as well. So that's the main thing, is that she was progressing. Her goals was the main objective.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
And that's what I say to the pairings, just have some goals, and just, if you accomplish just that one, not just one, because one goal is very important. If you accomplish that goal by the end of the 6 months, you've won.
Yeah. So do you have like a start date for your mentor program, and then how does that work, and how would someone get involved with it, Donna?
Well, we'll be looking to probably reignite, the 2021 program, March, April next year. It actually just started in June, obviously this year, because it was like, right, I need something else to do. We've got 6 months of the year left. So I haven't put in our concrete start date. But if people would like to become a mentor, or would like to be mentored, just contact me, Donna at womanevents.co.nz. We can find us on Woman in Events NZ on Facebook and on Instagram. You can always just drop me a message and I can pick it up there.
Nice. Love that. All right. Anyone watching, go do that.
Yeah, definitely. Come hang out with us.
Yeah, exactly. The other question I wanted to really delve into you a bit is, what are you seeing in the events industry? Like myself, I am blinkers on inside the business events industry, and a few years back, I decided to put those blinkers on because I was doing events as well as business events. So I was doing cultural events, community events. I was, I kind of had a foot in both camps. And then I really did put my blinkers on into the business events industry. So what are you seeing in the that public event space as far as confidence in the events moving forward? Are they returning? Is it going to be different? What's the vibe out there at the moment?
Creativity and resilience. They're busy. They're getting busy. They're growing. I'll take one example, which I've been very impressed with this year. The Auckland Diwali Festival run through ATEED, Leilani Meredith, who is the producer, event manager on that team, as well as there's a huge team that makes that beautiful festival come together. Annually, it'll be run in Aotea Square in lockdown part of Queen Street. This year, they obviously took a different scope, and they broke it up and they took it to the communities. Took it out south, took it out east, west, and just made it, because obviously when it comes to our events, we will potentially, if we're going to lockdown, have to look at those smaller numbers.
Yeah.
So 10,000 people in Aotea Square and Queen Street is not viable if a lockdown came.
Yeah.
And they broke it up and they took it, I suppose, back to its roots, back to the community. I mean, it's a massive community event within Aotea Square and Queen Street. But it kind of, I suppose, it broke it up a little bit, and all these wonderful celebrations and different workshops and seminar, I love the creativity that was involved in it, and movie screenings and just so much. Yeah, it's hard, it is hard in our industry right now. And I know a lot of people that unfortunately have lost their work with no event work in sight. Yet what is running is being creative, and they're being resilient, and they're just making it happen. I personally, my freelancing work for the season has dried up, so I decided to start my own event, but and so I just see so much coming up in our community, and just, we've had hard times before, the bank I suppose we call it the bank crash, and where prior to that I was finding that sponsors were potentially just throwing money at, whether it be monetary or things at events. And once that happened, everyone just like really, pulled back, and if the money or product was giving, they wanted more bang for their buck. So we had to get creative and not just rely on that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm seeing again now. People are busy, certain aspects, definitely. The weddings are starting to thrive. Our community events are starting to thrive again. And it's just, it is coming back, rock and roll music. For better or worse, it's all Kiwi acts. Fantastic. That we have such amazing homegrown talent. Amazing. Yes. And Homegrown Wellington has known that for double-digit years, and now other massive music festivals are doing it as well. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, nice. Have you had the opportunity to come down and work on Homegrown?
No, but I have been as a punter and had massive I want to do this. Yeah, I loved it. Loved every minute. And it was right in the, I suppose, peak, busy part of my career where I was running a venue. I was running the Transmission Room in Auckland, which was a hybrid TV studio as well as a rock and roll venue. I came down for Homegrown. And I just kind of felt that pull of the festival kind of, draw me in again. And maybe, I don't know, but it sparked me to get my A into G and go overseas. And then went and worked on international festivals there. And it was just, Homegrown's amazing. I love it. I love what those boys do and the rest of the team.
Yeah, yeah. How they transform the waterfront down here in Wellington is amazing.
It's stunning. And, for me, even I'd always, because I lived in Wellington for a whole 6 months in my late teen years, and I knew it was windy, but then when you combine a music festival, marquees, good old windy Wellington, that was a whole new level. And I obviously walked around and went, look at that, whoa, look at that. That's just stuff that we wouldn't have to comprehend to a point, some of it, in Auckland. And it was fascinating. It was great. And of course, I listened to, I think, I can't remember. It was headlining that year. It was just such an amazing, amazing year. But I just had such a fantastic time.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. There was one year that I remember distinctly. They had to postpone Homegrown because it was torrential winds and torrential rain. On the Saturday, and so I don't even know how they got their marquees up, but they did, and then they had to postpone it out to the Sunday, and so then it went ahead on the Sunday, but the ground was terrible because it would almost flooding material, it was, and every time I drove past, I'm like, oh, I feel for that event manager.
Definitely. I worked on the year Big Day Out where it was torrential.
Yeah.
And I remember, let me rephrase that. I went as a punter. I wasn't working for Big Day Out at that point. It was a year that Tricky was headlining. And I remember sitting up in the stadium, and they had all the pro flooring, obviously, down on the pitch. And people were breaking up the pro flooring, putting it above their head so they could still stand and watch the acts on the main stage.
Oh my God.
I was like, that is a true testament to how much they love rock and roll.
Yeah.
The field, not so much. But I was just like, even if it rains, people love music and they love being part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Look, I could chat to you forever. There's still so many other questions that I want to talk about, but I won't keep you here too long. The one question that I ask everyone that comes on the show before we wrap up is, what has been your one aha moment in business?
Realizing that women need a support network in events as well. So do the boys, so do men. So if anyone wants to start, boys support network, I find as women we can be competitive, which is unfortunate. So for me, it was to have a neutral space where people could come together and just know that they could just decompress, get the day, get the week, get the month off them, and just come and have a chat with some wonderful women.
Yeah.
And leave titles at the door. That was my aha moment, that what I was doing, bringing these women together monthly, was the right thing to do. Yeah,
nice. And just the results of what you've been doing speak for itself. So I love that.
Thank you. Well, I must say, this year was hard. At the 5th birthday, I mean, it's been hard for me personally and professionally. At the 5th birthday, I did have a moment. It's like, should I carry this on? Is it needed? There's so much going on for our industry. Do I want to be another thing that people feel like they have to come along to? And then we were lucky enough in between lockdowns to have an event at a free networking event at Cocoon House here. And it's a capacity venue of 50, and it went like that. And 110 people that wanted to come along. Yeah. And that brief moment of thinking, should I, is this worth it? Should I keep doing it? Was gone in an instant. Yeah. I was like, we need this. And people, once I mentioned that at the birthday, people coming up to me saying, please don't stop. We love coming along to this. And I get a lot of messages from people in Christchurch and Wellington saying, hey, when are they restarting? So, it's not just here in Auckland, it's throughout New Zealand. People love to come together. Yeah. That's awesome. Remind us again of the website where people can go and reach out to you and find out where your events are. Facebook is one of our easiest, just because we create the event there. You can email me, donna@womanevents.co.nz, as well as you can find our website, www.womanevents.co.nz. You can, pop your information there and it pings me an email. But honestly, Facebook or Instagram, drop me an email.
Awesome.
Whatever suits.
I will put all of those links into this post before we virally share it with everyone. But yeah, if you want to get along to an event that Donna is hosting, or one of the other coordinators throughout the country, get along to one of those events. They are actually really good to go to. If you want to be a mentor for the events industry, then reach out to Donna. And if you are in need of being mentored, then get hold of Donna. So some good resources to go visit Donna for.
Oh, can I just say a little bit? As well as we do giveaways at each event. So if you have a product or a show you'd like to showcase, we can do double pass, or we just had our event last night. We had a beautiful skirt from Ziba Chic. We had a dinner voucher from Garnet Station, and we had a free virtual bra fitting from Babe for every guest. So, and then I have suppliers that come on board as well to showcase their wares, whether it be caterers, setup, flower walls, selfie booths, photo booths, just balloon garlands. Just there's so much. Table hub at the birthdays, So come and hang out with us one night for one of the months, and let's showcase what you've got as well.
Yeah, nice. Love that. All right, Donna, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
So good to, I suppose, take a look outside just the business events industry, because we are really all one industry and we've all been hit really hard this year. So lovely to chat with you, see what's going on in the events world, and all of the good stuff that you are doing for the industry and for everyone to connect with one another, because that's really an important piece.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We will talk to you again soon.
Well, thank you.
Okay, everyone, that brings us to the end of another episode of Auaha Live. We have got one more episode before we break for Christmas. So I do hope that you will come back and join me on Friday, the 11th of December, for our last Auaha Live, and chats with another person who spends their dedicated time behind the scenes of the business events industry here in Aotearoa. Go and have a fabulous weekend wherever you are in the country. I'm about to hop in the car and travel to Taranaki for the weekend. And hopefully it'll stay sunny. The skies are blue here in Wellington at the moment, and there's not a breath of wind, which is always lovely. All right, until a fortnight's time, I hope you will join me back here. And if you are watching the replay for this one, do press share and share it out to your networks. Spread the good work that Donna is doing with women in events in New Zealand, and get in behind supporting each other in the industry. All right, that's it for me for this week. Mā te wā.